Welcome to Module 2. Here's what we'll set out to accomplish in this module. This module is all about productivity applications, as well as how they can be used to their fullest in instruction. We'll also take a look at copyright law and how it applies to education, and spend some time planning for how your future classroom will run. Along with that, we'll also tackle the issues of digital citizenship and classroom management when it comes to having technology in each kid's hands. Here are some of the additional objectives that we will achieve during this module. You will do 2 assignments in this module, and first up is the gradebook spreadsheet. Remember that there are many tutorials available to help you along the way with the technical elements of these assignments. So even if you've never performed a mail merge or worked with Excel or before, you'll be able to complete these on your own successfully using the tutorials here in our course. You're also welcome to use YouTube and other resources that you might find to help you as well. Note that if you do not have Microsoft Excel handy, you may be able to use Apple iWork or Google Docs for this assignment. Alternatively, use one of the computer labs on campus to complete these assignments using Microsoft Office. You may need to search the web to find tutorials to help you complete the requirements, especially for some of the upper level advanced formulas that we're going to use. However, almost everything from iWork or Google Docs should be exactly the same. Purdue does offer Office for free for all students, so if you do need it, go download it for your Mac or your Windows PC. Just visit the Purdue ITAP page, itap.purdue.edu, and log in to start that process. Your email address, remember, is your username at purdue.edu, not at pnw.edu when you are logging in and signing up for this. PNW is part of Purdue, so technically you have both emails available to you, but all of your mail always goes to just the one place, which is your PNW inbox. If you wind up having trouble with this process, be sure to contact the help desk, as they may need to activate something on your account. In our module's first discussion of 2, we consider copyright and the barriers that it can present. How can we work around copyright law to ensure that we don't break any while still giving students access to the materials that they need? You'll be given a brief, simplistic scenario of a teacher who used copyright at work in his classroom. Did he act within the letter of the law? If you don't think so, how could he have done something different to stay legal? Copyright is a big part of teaching today, and not following the law can lead to major problems for you and your school if you don't act appropriately. So knowing the law is very important in today's wide open internet. Don't forget to keep participating early and often in the discussion. It's sure to be an interesting one. More classrooms are getting devices into every kid's hands. There is a high likelihood that you'll be teaching in a one-to-one classroom within a few years of your graduation. So, how do you plan to manage these devices? We all know that kids can be kids. The allure of game playing and social media may be too much for some. For others, it might be the exploration of inappropriate materials. Either way, we know that this kind of behavior can impede learning and derail your otherwise well-functioning classroom. So what do? In this discussion, you're asked to consider a scenario. In your future classroom, during group work, you find that some of the groups are doing things that you don't want them to do with their devices, like playing Minecraft and surfing the web. You need to consider your classroom rules, as well as how you're going to teach digital citizenship to your students. There are 9 elements of digital citizenship, and teachers need to be able to address them with their students on a regular basis throughout the year, as we all know that technology is both a vital part of our society and something that changes all the time. Technology gives us a lot of power, but as they say, it also comes with great responsibility. Students won't necessarily be coming to you understanding this, so you'll have to impart this to them through enforcement of reasonable rules and consequences, along with a good understanding of what being a good digital citizen is all about. So, how will you teach students about digital commerce, communication, literacy, etiquette, the law, security and self-protection, and their digital rights and responsibilities? How will you approach the rules of using technology in your classroom in a fair way that both recognizes your students' current maturity level and encourages them to learn how to grow into responsible digital citizens? There are many ways to answer this, and a lot of it will have to do with your own personal teaching style. Of course, there are resources available in our module to inform you as well. Use them, and remember that there's no wrong answer. We'll all help each other work toward smart approaches to working with students and their devices in your classroom. Your first post will contain about 2 to 3 paragraphs. Be sure to reply to at least 2 of your peers and comment on their ideas as well. This is definitely a discussion that you're likely to learn something new. Finally, our final assignment for Module 2 is our first day of school in Google Classroom. The first day of school is often an exciting time for children as well as their teachers. It is an opportunity to get to know one another and to set the tone for the school year by explaining expectations and what students will be learning. By posting helpful first day information into a Google Classroom course, not only can students revisit this information if something wasn't clear to them during class, but parents can also take part in their children's education by exploring the site and perhaps even contacting the teacher with questions in an open electronic forum. So this assignment is going to help you develop your skills not just with Google as a technology tool, but also with presenting yourself as a teacher in charge of his or her very own classroom environment. So in addition to anything else you might wish to add to your Google course, you must include the following 4 items that every student on his or her first day needs to know. An introduction to you as their teacher. The goals for the school year, in other words, what will be learned. So your goals are broad, general statements that define the overall educational goals. They might differ from specific learning objectives in that goals reflect kind of the long-term academic year and are more nebulous and not always measurable. As part of communicating your goals, you should also reference the Indiana academic standards for your grade and subject area. These standards are the more detailed objectives that must be covered within each grade level each year as mandated by the state of Indiana. We'll look at the standards again in a future module, so this is an opportunity to familiarize yourself with this very important element of the educational process. So in order to meet the requirements for this assignment, be sure to include both a written introduction to what will be learned in your class, your instructional goals, as well as links to the Indiana academic standards associated with your course. Third, you're going to want an explanation of your class rules. Remember those rules that we just talked about in the digital citizenship discussion? Bring them back up now and put them to use. So what do you expect from your students throughout the year? What are the general rules for behavior, turning in assignments, projects, accessing the computers and other equipment in the classroom, and so forth? And also, what are the consequences when your rules get broken? Because unfortunately, surely they will at some point. Finally, your first lesson or activity in class can be introduced here. So what will you be doing first on your very first day in school? Why is this particular lesson interesting or important? Give us an introduction to the first topic at hand in whatever way you deem fit. This could be in the form of a slides presentation or a Google Doc, a video, a picture, some text, anything that you think appropriately conveys the upcoming topic for students and maybe even gets parents involved as well. Some of these are listed within your assignments as well, but they're also good places just to come and go look for help and further information about all the topics that are going on in Module 2. It seems like a lot in this module, but it's actually not so bad. Each assignment is relatively straightforward. Let's take a look at them. So here we are in Module 2, and you can see that in our table of contents we've got our discussions and then the assignments listed. So I'll just briefly show you the 2 discussions and their assignment descriptions. So you click there and then it'll tell you everything that's going on with intellectual property, which is the first one. And as you can see, there's a short scenario, like I said, about our teacher from Missouri and his potential wanton use of a series of poems from a poem book. And you can think about that and maybe do a little research. On this one, you're definitely going to want to tell us where you got your information from in making your decision. So as you read through this, you're going to write up a little bit about what you thought the teacher did right or wrong, and how he could have done it differently, maybe how he could have done his lesson in a way that maybe wouldn't have put him in any questionable situations at all, and then you're going to tell us how you based your decision. What sources did you use? You can use any of the sources that I have listed here, but there's of course lots of other ones. Copyright and intellectual property is a big issue on the internet, and there's plenty of people talking about it. So if you Google it, there will be lots of great information for you to find. So that's the first discussion. Then we would do the grade book next. So this will tell you all about the gradebook, the directions, and you'll see on this one there's actually a special video tutorial just for this assignment. So I'm not going to show you much about that assignment. I'm just going to show you where it's at and the fact that you can grab a gradebook file. It's like a template to start you off in the process. Even though it's an Excel file, it opens in iWork or Google Docs. So if you're using those, it's not a problem. But you will want to download that so that you can then start basically following steps. So it's just a series of steps to add to this template, to fill it out and complete it. You're going to do a few calculations on it, and a couple of them are a little more advanced, and you're also going to create a couple of charts. So if you're not much of an Excel wizard yet, I can't promise you will be by the end, but I will promise you that you'll at least get rid of your fear of Excel. It's really not that bad. It's actually kind of useful in a lot of situations. So check it out. Use the tutorials that are available to you. Watch the video. You can see the video tutorial right here. Watch that. Watch as many times as you want to. Stop it, start it, whatever you need to do. It'll show you exactly what to do on every step. So I highly recommend looking through that, especially if you are not that comfortable with Excel. Our next discussion would be the classroom management discussion, which is all about digital citizenship and how you're going to run your future classroom. There's a lot to think about in this. You do have sort of a starter scenario to think about with these misbehaving students and what you're going to do with them. And our goal is to think about their rules, the rules for the classroom. What do you expect to see from them as far as their use of technology? How would you teach this to them? How are you going to enforce digital citizenship and help your students use it appropriately? And then why? Why did you come up with all of these rules and strategies for yourself? This is an opportunity to help explore your own personal teaching style. Some of us are very strict, some of us are a little bit more lenient, some of us just come to the classroom with a different idea about how things are, and there's no right or wrong. Everybody's going to approach the situation a little differently, and if you've had some experience in the classroom already, certainly bring that out. If you know a teacher, if you've already had some of your upper level classes, you can tell us about some of the things you've seen that have worked well, or maybe things that haven't worked well, and use that as fodder for your own development of your own rules. There's also a lot of information here that you can read through, including a few examples of what other teachers are using in their own classrooms for rules. So that might give you some things to think about as you develop this. And it's a discussion board, so that means we could just share back and forth, and you might get some great ideas from others and go, oh, I really want to add that to my classroom rules. And the reason we're doing this discussion before the final assignment in this module is that you're going to use those rules that you create, and of course you can edit them and modify them as much as you need to for your Google Classroom. So the Google Classroom is kind of the last thing that we're going to do in this module. And if you've never used Google Classroom, you're going to find it's pretty easy to get along with. I will tell you that if you are using a outside a non-PNW Gmail account to log in, that's perfectly okay. Just realize that in order to see anyone else's or to be part of someone else's Google Classroom, then they will need to be on the same domain as you. So if you have a PNW account and you use your PNW account to create your Google Classroom, then other people that you want to add to that Google Classroom will also need to be PNW folks. So that's probably not going to come up for many of us unless you are using an outside school account that is not personal. Like, let's say you work at another school, you're an aide or something like that at, say, Maryville or Westville or somewhere like that, and you create your Google Classroom with that account, I won't be able to access it. So that's just something to keep in mind. Either use your PNW one or a personal one, but don't use any other outside type of account, like a school account or even a corporate account if you happen to work at a business that uses Google Apps. So just keep that in mind. The assignment lays everything out and gives you some basic directions on how to use Google Classroom. And you can, of course, access it at classroom.google.com. And I will go ahead and show you an example. So this is an example created by former student Brenna Lill. Brenna was setting herself up as a 6th grade math teacher, so she's focusing on middle school here. But she did a pretty good job being very thorough with her introduction and a parent letter and all kinds of stuff. So hers is a really good example for us to look at. You can see she's got a little introduction with a little welcome message, ability to contact her. She's focusing it on both students and parents. That way, everybody who's probably accessing this will get information and know how to contact the teacher and know what's going on in the classroom. So she starts with her introduction. Then she's got a little bit about herself. She actually used her blend space, so she just brought back her blend space and posted it in here. And she's even going to go ahead and encourage the other students, the students in class, in her future classroom to do that as well. So they get their choice. They could use blend space, Prezi, PowerPoint, slides, whatever. And so that winds up being her first lesson, is an introduction of themselves with some specific questions for the students to answer. She also has a little bit of homework even in there. So she's got something about, why is math important? Because of course it's a math class. So then students, and this is actually a question and answer, and so students could literally just type their answers and submit it here, and then everyone will be able to see each other's responses. And if you move over to About, she separated a few things. So instead of just leaving everything in the stream, she has an About page that she's using that also includes the Meet the Teacher letter. She wrote a nice letter for parents. Her classroom goals are here listed out, and these are just Word documents. They could easily be Google Docs as well, either way. But she's got everything listed out. There's her standards. She's got a bit of a discussion about what the learning goals are and ties that back to standards. And there's the link to the Indiana standards for her specific grade 6 math. And then she's got her classroom rules. And so she kind of dolled it up a little bit with some pictures and has some general rules and that kind of thing. Goes through all those very carefully. Then has her technology rules, explains what those are all about, and also has all the warnings and things about what happens when you don't follow the rules all listed out. So hers winds up, you can see how simple this is. Even though she created a lot of items to put in here, the actual structure of the Google Classroom is pretty simple. Yours can look just as simple and still be fabulous. So even though at first glance, sometimes Google doesn't look like much, it's actually a pretty cool system. I'm going to show you what it looks like to just have a blank course. to look at. So this is kind of a test course that I have here, and this is one I have access to add things to. So you can see when I go to the plus button, I can create questions, like Brenna had that little question for them. I can create assignments, I can create announcements. And this is on the stream here. So the stream is slightly different than About. Stream is sort of like the Facebook page where stuff kind of comes up as a timeline. So things will continually be added on this page. It's sort of the current events section. But do note that no matter what you're doing, you can have instructions and titles and things like that. But you can also do things like adding due dates and even using topics. If you noticed, Brenna had a few of her items set out as topics. So this is just a way to organize things. So if you have several different topics, then you could say, you know, social studies, science, English, whatever it is. And so you could create topics, and then they will show up under your topics bubble over here so that students can click and get just to that section of the course. So it's an organizational system. And if you choose, you can attach things. You can add things from your Google Drive. You can add YouTube videos. And you can add links. So you always have these 4 buttons here to add things at will. So I'll go ahead and assign that, and you'll see there's my new assignment and there's my new topic as well. So you can kind of play around with this and see how basic it is and how easy it is. And when you go to About, you get very similar things. You basically just say add class materials, and you get the same set of buttons: attachment, Google, YouTube, or a link. So, you know, whatever it is, I'll add a link here just so you can see what that looks like. So there's a link. And so students can automatically just click here and it'll take them to that page, etc., etc. So About is a good place to put things that you would want people to be able to access anytime, static things that never change. That's why Brenna made the choice to put her classroom rules and her parent letter and things on that page, because that's stuff that's not going to change, and we don't necessarily want to lose it either. You know, we want it to be able to be accessed anytime. So putting it About is a great idea. You may have a different method for your organization, and that's okay too. I've seen some people use their topics and simply organize everything in the stream but through topics and not use About. That's okay too. I've seen some people put About as only their introduction to themselves and everything else goes into the stream. There's no right answer. It's all just kind of in what you think and you know, what looks good to you. The only thing you have to remember is that when you're ready and you want others to be able to see it, specifically me, you have to tell me what your class code is. So when you click to Students, the center item, you'll have a class code on that page, and that's the information I need to be able to access your Google course. That's literally the only thing I need. There's no link. You can't just send people a link. It has to be this code because they have to be invited and added to the course as a student or a teacher. So just give them the class code, and we'll be able to access it. So all I would need to do is highlight my class code. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go back to the assignment, and literally all you need to do is paste that in. So into the comment box. That's truly all I need. Or you can hit Write Submission and you can do it there too. Either way, it doesn't make a difference. As long as I have that little string of text, that's all I need. So that you're going to submit that, and that's how I'm going to access your Google Classroom. So this is a fun set of assignments. There's a lot going on, it seems like, but again, they are not very long assignments, and they're kind of fun, and they all tie into each other a little bit. So hopefully they'll give you some great background and you'll have fun doing them.